Right.
So
Now,
what do companies do to alleviate the risk or to mitigate the risk in that?
well, I think it goes to the culture of the company. There's been no evidence placed in front of me that says the company would have punished Mr James if he had it averted when the weather went below alternate minima. And in actual fact, in the report from the company, our audit report, you'll find comments from the pilots saying none of them thought there would be an issue if they diverted or did it other than what they're asked to do. That's in the special audit report. So I don't think there's a culture of intimidation in this organisation. It comes down to professional standards. And I agree, Senator, I agree, there are company issues here. I've said that all along. Yes, they could have done better. Yes, they could have supported the pilot and command. But the last line of defence here is not the company. The last line of defence is the person who signs for the aeroplane, says, yes, it's got enough fuel, let's go. And you know that as well as I do, Senator, without being, and I mean that without being rude or in any way derogatory. You know, there is no other defence in the end than the pilot and command. That's what it comes down to. You know, we heard from Mr James this morning. He gave the chair a thumbnail sketch of his flying career. He failed to point out that he used to work for Qantas and that he was fired from Qantas for failure to maintain his standard.
You may have gone to the toilet break then.
I think you might have been in camera when this was discussed, but if it was, I don't know.
How did you find that information out?
Because that is part of the report, which is here in our submission, which would have gone to the AAT.
But CASA found the information about the Qantas issue. How did you get that information?
From Qantas.
Through what process?
Their training records. We requested their training records.
Why?
Look, we've been nothing but...
No, stop there. Why?
Why? Because we're trying to see what standard the person is operating at.
So why did you specifically go there in a 20-year history?
A 20-year history, sorry?
To the 10 years flying history of the pilot. Why did you
specifically
specifically
go to Qantas? Because we're looking at his
Qantas?
professional flying career.
Okay, where else did you look?
We looked at the Pell Air reports.
Nothing else? Just Qantas?
Well, that's as far back as his professional flying career went, to my knowledge.
So what made you go there?
Because we are looking to see whether there is a pattern or whether the person's, because and I say it again, we did not cancel his licence. We suspended his privileges till he showed us he had the necessary ability, technical ability, to be able to flight plan and in some cases fly. So naturally you would look to where you have the records. You would look to see what the person's experience is. That's not unusual. That is completely within our head of power.
But if you've got two conflicting views within your own department on what this is all about...
Conflicting schools of views.
Yeah. Schools of views.
Indeed. There's only two possible schools. Either you do divert or you don't.
Shouldn't you sort that out?
Well, in the normal circumstances, there is no way we can write a regulation which will cover every single possible combination of circumstances
But doesn't the
to
note
divert.
say-
But don't you... Look, in terms of future liability, you know, and we've got people that are medically unfit as a consequence of what happened, with being treated like dogs, no financial assistance, and I'm going to do something about that, who sadly may have to go to court to get a remedy. And here you are, one of your people, a very senior person, saying this is all very untidy for us, and at the same time, the chief pilot for the organisation that's going to cause all this to go to court, you've employed him, for God's sake.
Well, it was a merit selection, Senator, and as I said, there's only two possibilities. There's only two possibilities about whether you divert or you don't divert. So you're going to have two schools of thought. Either you do or you don't. As I say,
Yeah, but
in the opinion
that's like me saying, depending on what side of the bed I get out of, I'm either right or wrong. I mean, right is right and wrong is wrong. One of them's got to be wrong. Why don't you sort it out who it is?
because it's not possible to be definitive. It's Senator, if you can appoint me to someone who can tell me how to write that reg, I'll do it.
Well, I mean, that's what you call a legal vagary and a lawyer's feast. Senator Edwards.
Just one point of clarification. At what stage was the report on this accident at when Mr Wickham was employed by CASA?
The accident report would have been completed. You're talking about our report, Senator, or the ATSB's report?
Yeah.
Well, our report was complete.
Your report was completed and the ATSB?
Well, I can't speak for the ATSB, but it has only just recently been released, so I imagine...
So
you employed him while he was under...
So you employed him while that was still being drafted. Of course, he was employed some years ago now, isn't it? 2 years ago?
I think I said February 2011. 2011, thank you.
But subsequent to the accident, which he was the chief pilot, while I'm there, did any one of you or your officers speak to the officers of the ATSB directly about the preparation of the draft at any stage of their drafting prior to their report?
I had no correspondence at all with the ATSB.
We're not asking you, we're
We-
asking whether your organisation
Yeah,
or your
we were just
officers-
getting that, Senator. We would have, on the directly interested parties provision, made comment, and we did make, as the Senator outlined there, we did have the exchanges of information about the possible safety recommendations.
So would there be one exchange or hundreds of exchanges or 50 phone calls or 500 phone calls or no phone calls between
It's a bit-
you
well, it's a-
or your officers?
I'm pretty certain it wouldn't have been 500 phone calls. It's not, the exchange is generally on paper, so the
Just leave it,
exchange would
just
have
leave
been
it.
what Senator Fawcett read out there on
But-
the emails.
So, all right, then well, I'll ask anybody at the panel.
Yeah, we can do some more research on that, Senator.
Yeah, no, I don't, I mean, you can come up, you know, I'm sure that we can research whatever. I'm asking you here and now that any of you people here know of or have any knowledge of the number of contacts made between the ATSB and your organisation in the shaping or about specifically the report which has just been released by the ATSB in this matter.
I'll ask Mr. Folkeson to make a comment on that.
Senator, the discussion, as far as I'm aware,
There have been discussions.
there was the initial, and I'll ask Mr. Boyd to elucidate a little bit more on this, but my recollection is at the time that the safety recommendation, the critical aspect in the ATSB's views were put forward, that initiated a discussion between our standards branch and CASA as to what could or could not be done in terms of prescriptive regulation.
In terms of recommendations, you're talking about forming recommendations.
No, the ATSB's view, as I recall, was that this should be dealt with by way of a prescriptive set of legislation. The rules that said, if this, then that. If these circumstances prevail, then you divert or you make some other set of decisions. Now, my understanding is that that discussion took place between Standards Division and the ATSB, and the next series of contacts would have been, I presume, in the DIPS process.
Okay, so there is formal communication, there's written communication between you on this matter?
I think that in the documents that we have submitted to you, there's a record of our responses, but I'd ask...
No,
you got any-
Senator
do
Fawcett
you want anything
acknowledges that we have it. All right.
Do you want anything?
Senator, I can confirm that particular issue was of discussion between the Standards Division and the ATSB, but only on that particular matter.
So that means there isn't a Chinese wall?
No, it was putting forward the arguments that Mr McCormick's already put, Senator, that
So there isn't a Chinese wall?
The point Senator Hepburn is making is that is this routine to have this type of discussion during an
Yeah, Senator, it is as part of the MOU.
Right.
but apart from that discussion, as
Never said a word off the page.
so
Are you a lawyer?
no, Senator.
You're the lawyer.
So I'll finish now because there are people with far more knowledge of this particular incident than I am. But you're confident that in the evidence that we're going to be able to collect, that there will be nothing outside the routine of what you've just told me that took place in discussions between the two units of CASA and ATSB, which other people suspect otherwise. And we're not going to turn up any evidence, or nobody's going to provide us with in-camera evidence that there is any kind of collusion between the two bureaus.
Senator, there's definitely no collusion between us. The official communications
I'm handing
between...
you this ball so
Yes.
that you can deal with it.
Yeah. The official communications between us in the manner that Mr Boyd and Mr Farquharson have outlined, in that there's a safety recommendation come to us, we go back and reply. The people that are replying are in specific positions. That encompasses the grand total of our official communications with ATSB. I cannot rule out the fact that somebody who has a friend in ATSB may pick up the phone and talk to them, but that certainly would not feature in our official position, as far as our position goes with ATSB.
Do you have any knowledge of those kind of conversations?
No, I do not, Senator.
So, Mr
But
Boyd,
it's possible.
Mr Boyd,
I can't rule it out, Senator.
given your recognition of the fact that there's this conflicted view within the department, which, to quote, looks very untidy, did you discuss the untidiness with ATSB?
No, Senator.
Have you ever had a discussion with ATSB?
No, Senator.
Do you think it's untidy, the divided view in CASA?
That's a difficult one to answer.
No. I mean, you know what I know. You know what I know. Is it untidy?
Might be bordering on an opinion there.
Yeah, it's sort of...
Instead of the definite.
So, Mr Farquharson, do you think it's untidy?
I think it bears resolution, Senator.
Do you think it's untidy?
I don't think I'd use those words,
Have you
Senator.
ever expressed that view?
That it was untidy.
Untidy, yes.
I don't know, Senator.
Oh, you don't? We got this from you.
Yes, and
Seems to be your name. Senator Xenophon.